This message is for Christian teachers, teachers in training, and parents, which are 75% of the U.S. citizens. Hello, this is Nancy Goettman with the Christian Coalition of Bexar County, and we're here to inform the citizens, Christian citizens, of what is going on in the United States. Wake up, citizens. This documentary is taken from Concerned Women of America and Eagle Forum newsletters on the national level within the last couple of years, besides all of my 46 years of teaching experiences as a teacher, substitute teacher, and then earlier, 1954 to 1963, growing up when God was in the public schools. To start with, the National CWA, Concerned Women for America, biggest women's ministry in the USA, Beverly LaHaye and Penny Nance, in the May 2015 newsletter said, "Dear friend of freedom, there's a dangerous power grab unfolding within our nation's school." This was May 1st, 2015. And children and grandchildren like yours all over America have personally felt its stranglehold this school year. It's called the Common Core Standards Initiative. It's one-size-fits-all education for your children and mine, and it has the Obama administration written all over it. The Common Core is the federal overhaul of our education system to create national K-12 standards. This senseless government overreach was never voted on and lacks involvement by teachers, state legislators, and local officials, and parents like you. Estimating at a whopping $16 billion, these nationally mandated education standards must be met in order for states to receive much-needed federal education funding. In other words, it's a bribe. In other words, the Federal Department of Education in the past never gave out federal education money to the schools demanding that they do their special curriculum, ever. They are overriding their authority. This is the first time they ever did this for curriculum and rules. The power to set educational standards is constitutionally reserved to the states. But through the Common Core, the government is essentially swapping cash for power. Your state relinquishes its rights, then receives federal money, grants, and waivers in return. But there's good news, and you've played a part in it. Despite the federal government's devious attempt to hijack your child's education, common sense is beginning to rule the day when it comes to the Common Core. Opposition is building across the nation. Today, 40% of Americans say they disapprove of the standards, that is 40%. And with your help, CWA-LAC is leading the charge state by state in the battle to unravel the Common Core. As I write you, 40 states have adopted the Common Core. 8 states, including yours, have either refused to adopt the standards or battled and withdrawn their schools from their federal assault of their children. 15 states are currently pushing back the Common Core, taking the necessary steps to protect their states' children from the controversial standards. We strongly believe that your child, your rights as a parent, and our respective states' education systems are the unwitting casualty of the Common Core. That's why we're fighting tooth and nail to educate and involve friends like you in this great battle, protecting children like yours in every state of the nation. From this massive federal overhaul, I know that leaders in your state have been courageous and strong, standing against the tide and in the opposition to the Common Core. In Texas, we've had Dan Patrick, a U.S. Senator who is now Lieutenant Governor, and Donna Campbell, who is also a U.S. Senator. They've been fighting against the Common Core and the CSCOPE. But nearly 85% of the country, the majority of our nation's public and private school children, are still bound to these oppressive educational requirements. And I think you'd agree, there's no way the government is going to stop pushing the Common Core in your state. So we must remain diligent to fight for our continued freedom, for the sake of your children and grandchildren and the future of America. And right now, we have a really shot at this. The local control of the Education Act has been introduced into both houses and the Senate. CWA LAC is proudly supporting this awesome effort to prohibit the federal government. We're speaking out in the media against the federal government in this area. We are educating concerned citizens like you across the nation. We are coming alongside the states in the battle to defeat the Common Core and in Texas, CSCOPE. And we are keeping the constant pressure on our leaders at both the state and the national levels to stop the strong arm tactics and keep the federal government from trampling on states' rights. The Common Core is an epic failure. It has epic consequences for your children and grandchildren. Please take action now. Your children deserve better. Sincerely, Penny Nance, CEO and President. Okay. And if you want to find out more about this, go to www.concernedwomen.org and check out Common Core. The Texas Eagle Forum torched Kathy Adams over 10 years as president. This is an article on February 15th. February 2015, volume 28, number 2, said, "Parents are the key to removing CSCOPE. A recently retired high school English teacher who has been in the classroom since CSCOPE's beginning, there are views and information only a teacher could know and reveal about CSCOPE. CSCOPE is Texas' answer to Common Core, which attempts to replace the name of Common Core and has the same concepts but uses different name to fool Texans and still get the same curriculum and rules. The controversial education plan that would restructure the American education to a one-size-fits-all federal education system. The truth is we are telling students what to think and not teach them how to think. I must add that Common Core material is used often by teachers trying to stay ahead of the game. Since the brutal and strong-arm introduction of CSCOPE, Texas schools increasingly graduate students who are unable to read, write, or think at grade level. American history has been changed. There is a plan to wipe out our Christian heritage through deleting more and more of our founding fathers' beginnings, like the Pilgrims and the colonists who fought for the Declaration of Independence and Constitution along with the Bill of Rights. Also, the students' comprehension and understanding of English language, literature, American and world history, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, physics, and chemistry are also minimized. Classic literature, such as novels, poetry, and plays, are no longer allowed in the classroom. Literature is now abridged or to stunt or brighten a student's worldview. Stories about victims of man's inhumanity to man, and poems with perverse and immaterial deference to base thoughts that do not enlighten or brighten a student's worldview. Student skills, tools, and decision-making ability are diminished under CSCOPE. This crippling opportunities to learn to evaluate, edit, apply, analyze, synthesize, evaluate, and gain a world-class education. All writing and reading is geared simply for minimal thinking to pass the STAR test. There are too many tests which take away from academic learning, and teaching from the test is wrong because there's no basic foundation that's built on. They bounce around with different concepts with no foundation to build on, like math and so forth. CSCOPE makes no allowance for students' varying abilities, skills, and behavior. The quantitative disregard to develop critical thinking skills, intelligent and intellectual tools, as well as written and oral communication, is all the plan of the CSCOPE founders and the districts that implement CSCOPE. Every teacher is policed by a massive group of CSCOPE's regulator, and I know that personally, making sure that teachers teach the same material in the same day each week. Only compliance is expected. achievements, innovative and creative energy, and direction are no longer expected of the teachers. By the way, that does cost extra money to have these regulators from the state and the nation. Waste money, and there's no consideration for individuality in the classroom. Next, the National Eagle Forum by Phyllis Schlafly started for families since 1972, and she mostly was after education. I've met her several times, and she's a lovely lady. Report on August 2014. She is always ahead of the game on issues. Common Core is growing unpopularity that they may be soon politically untouchable. The latest, a detailed criticism of the mathematics standards by a prize-winning math professor at UCF Berkeley, Marina Ratner. It is refreshing that her criticisms are very specific and include examples of assignments that parents can see are ridiculous. American history is spelled out in the SAT exams. They pitch out traditional families' history and put in their leftist emphasis on race, gender, class, ethnicity, instead of the truth about our past. Instead of an emphasis on Americans' founders and their beliefs and the principles of the constitutional government will be left out in the new SAT tests. Therefore, there will be no need to teach it. In fact, some teachers may find they may lose their jobs over it sometimes. Common Core standards will move the U.S. even closer to the bottom in international ranking. Right now, we're 28th or 29th, and we spend the most money on a child than any other country of the Western world. But yet, we're number 29th on the bottom. NEA. NEA stands for National Education Association. Originally, NEA was a good teachers organization, and I joined in 1968 for 1 year. But since God was kicked out of the schools in 1962, rejecting prayer and Bible classes by the Supreme Court, it has gone down in a spiral quickly. Ever since 1963, the SAT scores have spiraled downward. Never has the SAT scores come up to the 1962 scores, and this is 2015, using the same test through the years. Because it is so embarrassing info to the Department of Education, they are allowing the Common Core group to make the SAT tests easier, so it looks like the educational process is improving when it is not. The NEA union is the biggest and most influential anti-God union in the USA, which used to be teachers only. Once some of the Christian teachers began to realize what it was all about, many dropped from the organization. So the union filled it up with bus drivers, janitors, secretaries, besides the teachers. Now they have more money and power. They also tried to bribe the teachers into putting a scare that they would be sued by parents and needed to join. As I went to one of the national NEA conventions with the media, I found out there was much ungodly curriculum and false donations, which I thought was to help the children, but instead it was money to help give the leftist candidates under a false pretense name more money. At the time, the name was Children's Defense Fund. I don't know what it is now. To avoid being investigated, this is why they put it under a false pretense. Most Christian state leaders, teachers, didn't bother to go to the national convention because they spent their time at home with their family and vacation time, and did not vote on ungodly laws and curriculum. They were not up there to vote on it. Why pay our taxes to bosses, Federal Department of Education in D.C., who are making laws and curriculum which goes against our values? Why not keep our money in our state and pay for bosses who agree with our values? Change the TEA to another name. and not be under the NEA. Keep our SBOE, State Board of Education group. I know Dan Patrick and Donna Campbell, both the senators at the time, did their best to keep the authority in the SBOE, State Board of Education, because they were fighting for the conservative issues. The majority of the people on the board are conservatives, and the leader is conservative. Curriculum used to be decided by the state and local authorities, but today the National Department of Education is cramming it down our throats, which is heavily influenced by the NEA. When God was kicked out, the devil came in through the NEA, which piggybacked on the Federal Department of Education and affected them what to do. It is my suggestion we drop out of the Department of Education and sending our taxes to the Federal Department of Education and keep it for ourselves for state and local use only. Why should we pay for bosses who we not just disagree but are totally against? If you want to join a good teachers union, join the CEAI or Christian Education Association International, which encourages, equips, and empowers Christians serving in the public and private schools. I was a member for many years and enjoyed it, demonstrating God's love to the educational community since 1953. I'm suggesting if you want a good teachers union, CEA is one of the best. You can make your own decision. Contact through CEAI, Post Office Box 45610, Westlake, Ohio 44145. Email info@ceai.org or website www.ceai.org or telephone 1-888-798-1124. And I'll leave you with what they stand on. The philosophy of the classroom today will be the philosophy of our government tomorrow. And they wrote this from Abraham Lincoln's quote. And that is the truth. If you don't do something soon, it's been a long time. We need to start going after our legislators and getting after our legislators to not just back conservative laws, but drop the taxes, federal taxes to the Department of State Education. Drop it immediately and keep all our tax money for education with our state and our local office. Create our own, instead of TEA, change the name, change the structure so that we are no longer under NEA. And we can operate the way that God wants us to operate. God bless you. Have a good day. God bless America.